fresh out the oven.
What is cracking, everybody? It's Mega Pieman here, and welcome to another edition of Pieman's Playlist, the series in where I attempt to introduce people to music that I've come across recently, not recently, listen to all the time, or anything that I just find interesting. Since the last video, I have figured out that annotations are no longer a thing on YouTube. So, because I cannot play the music I'm going to be talking about in the video to avoid copyright strikes, I will be covering 5 songs, and the links to them will be both in the description as well as available on YouTube cards that you can see by clicking on the correct button on the video. You can only have 5 cards per video, which is why we're going to be covering 5 songs as opposed to 7 that we covered in the first video. But that's what happens when you don't know things that are happening, and then you put a video up talking about annotations only to find out annotations aren't a thing anymore. Alright, so let's get started! Alright, the first song we're going to be talking about here is Cider Road by the Dreadnoughts, off of their album Polka's Not Dead from 2010, I believe, is when that album came out. So, the Dreadnoughts are a bit of an interesting band, mainly because they are a folk punk band, which is an odd combination of things that I never thought I would ever come across. Their music reminds me a bit of the Irish punk kind of a scene that was around a couple of years ago, bands like Dropkick Murphys or Flogging Molly, that sort of a thing, where they take the punk sound and then they incorporate more traditional music into it, except for the most part, they focus on polka. They even have a song called Polka Never Dies. So these guys, their sound is definitely interesting. I believe they are Canadian, which is also kind of weird. They're Canadian, and yet they have a polka sound in their punk music. I don't know. I don't know where they got these ideas from, but it sounds really, really cool. If you do happen to like that sort of more traditional music mixed with the more punk music that you get from Dropkick Murphys or Flogging Molly, then I imagine that you would enjoy the Dreadnoughts. This particular song, Cider Road, it sounds like it would be straight out of like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack, some sort of skateboarding thing, or possibly a racing game from the mid-2000s. It sounds right out of that area. It's a quick-moving song. It's got some really interesting choices of instruments going in the background. I can't say I've ever really heard anything like the Dreadnoughts outside of, you know, what I've previously stated with the Irish influence bands, but that's about as close as I can get. So if you have any interest in that, I recommend checking out the Dreadnoughts, and my favorite song from them is Cider Road because it moves. It's a moving song. It's a song that gets up and gets going. And if you watch the first episode of Pieman's Playlist, you will know that I like songs that move. So check it out. The second song we're going to be talking about today is Strange by Kill Devil Hill off of the album Kill Devil Hill, released in 2012. Now, this is very much a big rock song, and the interesting thing about Kill Devil Hill is that they're a supergroup made up of people from a whole bunch of other different bands. I believe the vocalist is from a group called Pissing Razors or something odd like that. But the main thing is that the bassist is Rex Brown from Pantera. Now, I've not really been much for the bands that have broken out of Pantera. I really didn't like Down all that much. I believe the other 2 bands was like Damage Plan and what was the name of the other one? Hell Yeah, I think. I haven't been much for those bands because they felt kind of generic, and they didn't really have a lot of songs or anything that stood out to me. And Kill Devil Hill currently has that problem. A lot of their music that I have heard off of their discography does come off very much as generic, heavy rock, hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. That's sort of a... It's a bit heavier than rock, but not exactly what I would call metal, but, you know, it's difficult to call something a genre nowadays with how crazy genres are. They've got a song called Crown of Thorns that I find to be just extremely generic. But the thing that I really like about Strange is that it's a decently heavy song, and it knows when to transition. It's got some really good riffs, and it transitions from one bit to another bit to another bit. It knows pretty much exactly when it needs to add something, when it needs to take something away, as it goes through the verses, as it goes into the chorus. The way the vocalist hangs on to the word strange in the chorus fits really well. The song it's a well-crafted song that sounds really good in my opinion, and it really knows when to go into the solo. It knows when to go into like not quite a solo, but like a mid solo. If this was a video game and the solo was the boss, the mid solo would be the mini boss. Just add a little bit of a flair on top of one of the verses to give you a taste of what's going to be coming up. And there are some bands that struggle with knowing when to transition, and there are other bands that tend to transition from one thing to another thing, so it almost feels like you have two different songs in one track, which sometimes can work, but generally, in my opinion, cannot. But Kill Devil Hill, they know when to do it. Kill Devil Hill is, of course, named after Kill Devil Hill in North Carolina. I've been there. I went to vacation there. It was actually a very, very nice place. If you ever find yourself in Kill Devil Hill, I would recommend a restaurant called Bosner's. They have amazing crab mac and cheese. It should be right next door to a place called Daredevil Pizza. So I'd recommend that. Their crab mac and cheese is just delicious. Also, a place called Jolly Roger has great freaking cream of crab soup. They got good stuff there. But don't go to Stack 'em High. Stack 'em High, they advertise themselves as a pancake house, and they do breakfast, but it's like cafeteria breakfast. Although, I didn't get the chance to go to a place called Bob's Eat and Get the Hell Out. I really wanted to, but I didn't get the opportunity. But anyway, moving on. Alright, for the next song, we're going to be toning things down a bit with The Warpath by Connor Youngblood. From what I have been able to find out about Connor Youngblood, I don't think he actually has any albums released. All of his music is available over on SoundCloud, so you can check that out if you happen to enjoy the track. I don't know what year this is from either, since I wasn't really able to find that anywhere on SoundCloud or much of anything. But this particular song, it feels a lot like a song that you would see in a TV show. It's kind of got that subtle, almost epic kind of a build-up sound that you see a lot of TV shows. I would say it would almost match a show like Hell on Wheels, if you've ever seen that, because this song has a very big Western vibe without being a country song, or without necessarily being a Western song. It's almost more of a subtle kind of a hip-hop song. It's got a very prominent beat going along in the background, but along with that, you've also got some sort of like cowboy whistling going with it. You've also got this sort of guitar sound going along with it that wouldn't be too out of place from some of the more sentimental kind of Western cowboy music sounds that you would hear from someone like Blues Sarasota, I think his name is, or Sarkenzio or something like that. I don't know. It's difficult for me to actually pin down what kind of music this is, outside of, I would imagine, hearing it in a trailer or in a movie or in a TV show when they're having a particular time where you've got either the main character or the group of main characters sort of like walking at the screen because they're going to a showdown or something. It very much has that final showdown, that build up to a climax, subtle kind of a sound, you know, like that slow walk down the street sort of a sound. That's to try to get it to be the calm before the storm that you would imagine in a television show or a movie or so on and so forth. There are some problems with this track. I do feel that it kind of goes on. It's very repetitive. The lyrics for it are interesting. They talk very much, it's called The Warpath. It's very much about fighting and that kind of a thing, which helps fit the showdown sort of thing. But the vocals are very soft. They're very, very soft vocals. They don't get any louder. They are kind of just there, weaving their way in and out of the music, almost sounding like it's trying to fit more as a different instrument instead of necessarily as vocals. And it does that pretty well, but the song doesn't build up and doesn't really build down. It kind of stays the same throughout the entire thing and then fades out toward the end. So I did wish it did a little bit more there, but possibly if I did that, it would lose its kind of sentimental feeling that it has, the calm before the storm feeling that it has. And because of those kinds of feelings, I think that works really well in its favor. And I'd recommend checking that out if you are interested in anything that could fit that kind of a thing, or if you happen to be working on a television show and are looking for a song to fit a calm before the storm moment. Check out Warpath, or The Warpath by Connor Youngblood. I think it would fit pretty well. Alright, the fourth track we're going to be talking about today is going to be very, very difficult, because it is super flippin' Swedish. Okay, this song is called Himmelsfärdskommando by the band Raubtier, off of their album Skryt från Vildmarken from 2010. And I completely apologize to anybody out there who happens to speak Swedish, because I probably horribly ruined trying to say any of those things. But this particular group, they are a metal group. They are very, very much a metal group, sort of an industrial metal group almost. And they have been compared to a combination of Rammstein as well as Sabaton. Basically, the sort of industrial metal sound of Rammstein with the lyrics that Sabaton uses, because they very much focus on World War II lyrics. Of course, all of their lyrics are in Swedish, so the most I can do to try to figure out what their songs actually say is look at the lyrics and then try and find somebody who translated them, or translate them myself using Google Translator, which isn't always fantastic. But, you know, you do what you can. But even so, even though I don't understand the language and everything is in Swedish, the music is still really flippin' awesome. This particular song, it's got a very heavy guitar going along with it. It's got that sort of Rammstein heavy guitar, but it's also got some electronica in it with an organ playing in the background. It does a really awesome job building up to the chorus, even though I don't understand the chorus, and I have absolutely no idea what a Himmelsfärdskommando is. Commando, of course, means commando, but it's spelled with a K. I don't know what that is, but it sounds great. It sounds really cool. It is very much a metal song. It's an industrial metal song. It's got a bit of electronica in there. It's got the lower guitar. I mean, these guys, the logo for the band is a pit bull dog head with Gatling guns coming out of its eyes. These guys they very much have a war theme going on with their band. I really like them. I'm having a hard time talking about them, mainly because they're entirely in a different language, and I've just ruined pretty much everything about their band that is in another language, but it sounds really cool. If you like Rammstein or industrial metal, it's definitely more of a metal sound than the kind of electronic you get from KMFDM, but not quite what you get from Ministry. Ministry is more of a thrash kind of a thing, whereas these guys are more of a heavier sound than that. Not that Ministry can't necessarily be heavy, but Ministry is usually very, very quick, whereas Raubtier is not necessarily about trying to be as fast as possible. They're more about trying to be kind of like Sabaton, with be as epic as possible with a lot of their sounds. You got nice build-ups, you got nice opposite of build-ups. I don't know the technical musical term. I'm not a musician or person who knows about music. I just know music that I like, and I like Raubtier, so check them out. Maybe you'll like them too. I hope I'm saying their name correctly, and if I'm not, I apologize. If you're Swedish and you would like to tell me how to say these things, that would be fantastic. Please put that in the comment section. Alright, let's move on, shall we? Alright, the final song we're going to be talking about today is Eyes of Horror by the band Final Breath off of their album Let Me Be Your Tank from 2004. This is getting into some of the real heavy stuff here. This song is like death metal mixed with thrash metal, and it sounds flippin' awesome. The lyrics of this are sort of that kind of growly death metal lyrics, and they do have some of that death metal grind throughout the song, but the song also has the thrash metal movement that I really like. I like thrash metal. It's my favorite kind of metal, and I like it because it moves. And this song has a lot of bits that move. It has some bits that it slows down for more of your death metal grind and speeds back up, goes back and forth between those kinds of things. It does have a section where it kind of slows down and almost changes to sounding like a different song with the riffs. Kind of like how I talked a little bit back with Kill Devil Hill, how the Strange track transitioned really well into different bits so it fit and all felt like the same song. Eyes of Horror doesn't transition quite as well when it kind of slows down for the grind and then goes into almost a different song before going back to the original riffs. It doesn't fit as well as, or transition quite as well as a song like Strange, but then it's a very different kind of song. It's trying to do very different kinds of things. It still has good build-up all the way up to the solo, which is really awesome, and it's a nice, in-your-face, heavy song, if that's the kind of a thing you're looking for. If you're okay with sort of the growlier kind of vocal lyrics, then you probably will enjoy this song as well, even though the album Let Me Be Your Tank sounds more like it's off of like a League of Legends or an RPG kind of a thing. This came out in 2004, so that was before League of Legends. But World of Warcraft was around in 2004, and they had like a tank builds, a build for a character that could take a whole lot of damage. And every time I think of Let Me Be Your Tank, I can't help but think of that, even though I don't think this particular track would fit with your fantasy RPG, because it's not really a fantasy song. It is very much a heavy, evilish sounding metal song. It's got that. It really fits the Eyes of Horror. And the way in the intro, when it sort of whispers Eyes of Horror, and then it gets up into the big chorus where it starts yelling out Eyes of Horror, it really does some good build-ups, build-downs, even though some of the build-downs go a little bit too far down, for my opinion. It always picks up, and for the majority of the song, it's about it's a 5-minute and 48-second song, and for the most of it, it moves, it's got that heavy sound, and if you happen to like death metal or thrash metal, then you may enjoy Eyes of Horror by Final Breath. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this Pieman's Playlist number 2. Hopefully, I'm getting better at conveying my thoughts about music. Hopefully, I've conveyed my thoughts about these tracks well. I'm not necessarily a musician, like I've said before. I don't necessarily know all of the terminology or the ins and outs and backgrounds of making music or all that technical nonsense. I'm just a guy who likes music and wants to let people know the songs I like because they may like it as well. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please let me know in the comment section. If you have any suggestions for any songs you would maybe like to see here in the future, suggested that you'd like me to check out, that I may talk about on a future Pieman's Playlist, then feel free to leave that in the comment section as well. Links to all the songs you heard today will be in the description, as well as available on the cards that are on the video. I'm still not sure how YouTube cards work, man. I miss annotations. I really do. I really do. But anyway, till next time, I'm Mega Pieman. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys later.